Hey everybody, this is Doug Curtin, the host of Chalk Talk, the podcast presented by Platform. We are having a live episode right now. That's right, we are hosting a live episode for our Platform Facebook community. We're going to have Coach Max Isaac and Michael Horn both on the episode today. We're going to be talking about things like personalization, technology in the classroom, some exciting stuff. We're super jacked up about it. We're going to get them in their seats. We're going to get this mic fired up, and we're going to kick it off. So sit tight, and we're looking forward to a great episode. Hey everybody, this is Doug Curtin. We are live at Facebook headquarters. This is our first go at Facebook Live, and we have our Facebook community to kind of be our test run. So welcome everybody who's listening in. We have Max Isaac.
Hi, just so everybody's clear, this is Platform headquarters, but we're on Facebook.
That's right. And we have Michael Horn.
Hi everyone.
So
excited to be with you.
Awesome to have both of these guys with us. It's actually a funny story. I'm going to let you guys introduce yourselves, but the connection here really is that we used to work in the upstairs of Max's gym.
Right.
And one day I was plugging away and found some sort of document or some sort of thing that had your face on it. And I said, that guy looks familiar. And you were a member at Max's gym.
Indeed.
So I asked Max, I said, who's this guy? And turns out we're in kind of the same circle, which is pretty cool. So
yeah, I think it's one of the best parts about running a community gym is that there are so many connections, and it all just comes from one jumping off point, which is fitness. We got to start with Platform in our building, and I've known Michael now for going on
3-4 years.
4 years.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Michael, I'm actually going to kind of kick it to you first.
All right.
You know, we always have different guests on. Max has joined the podcast before. I'll let him do a little bit of an introduction of himself, but, you know, what's your background? How, outside of me recognizing your face, did you end up here?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been involved in the education world for over a decade now, almost 15 years, I think. Started in working with Clay Christensen at the Harvard Business School, writing a book with him about how we could use this forced disruptive innovation to basically transform schools into entities that would personalize learning for every single student, because we all learn at different paces, we have different needs at different times, we have different background experiences, and the reality is schools are set up to standardize the way they teach and test, and it just doesn't work for the most of us. So I've been in education for a long time. In 2011, after I got married, I think most people start CrossFit before they get married. My wife and I started after we got married, and she became addicted pretty quickly. It took me a little bit longer to get into it, and as I did, it changed everything about my life. And I took my wife down to a school visit in California, sort of south of San Jose. And we were seeing this, and this guy was like, and I think, you know, not only am I using technology to personalize in these ways, we're going to partner with the CrossFit gym across the parking lot to do these cool things for a fitness class. And you know, alarm bells went off. And I was like, this is awesome. This would be a much brighter future for PE and physical education. Anyway, fast forward, we moved to Boston area. We're looking for a CrossFit gym and stumbled into Tilt. And I think that's what brings us all together now.
Yeah, absolutely. And so Max owns a couple gyms. He is the face of Platform. So for everybody watching, we've seen a few different iterations of beards and different things like that.
Right.
But, you know, Max, what do you see in terms of like working with large groups? You have large classes. You're always trying to also do kind of that personalization and not just kind of, you know, for the masses style of training, right?
Right. So Michael hit the nail right on the head there. I think my belief is that we all kind of need an individualized fitness plan. And whether we call it CrossFit, whether it's our Platform program, whatever it is, we have to figure out what our physiological, psychological needs are. And we're able to do that, hopefully, through some guidance from, you know, if it's in education with a teacher, or if it's in a gym with a trainer, somebody that gets to know you and figures out exactly what you need. For me, it's happened in a number of different ways, whether it's running an affiliate or actually my background is also in education. So it was starting at the kindergarten level, but actually when I was teaching middle school, I was at a school and I had the opportunity to work one-on-one with a number of students and develop these individualized fitness plans where these students were working towards their fitness goals in a group setting. So that is what CrossFit is, and what fitness is about is, can we get a group of people together, have them work towards their own goals, but that group setting then kind of raises everybody together.
I think it's a really important point on two fronts, because a lot of times when people will hear me speak, they'll say, like, this is terrifying. If we just individualize everything, people will be working by themselves, isolated, on technology, whatever it might be. And the reality is community is so important in these learning environments. And so the question is, how do you blend the best of what a community can bring you?
Right.
That commitment to others, that cheering on people, the connections that you make, all those intangible things that is involved with being a part of a social network.
Right.
And still give that personalization so that we don't assume it's a one-size-fits-all way of training. What's best for me is certainly not best for Max when we're lifting in the gym together.
Right. And so in our space, we have these large physical education classes, and I had somebody else on one of our podcasts who does a lot of consulting in one of the biggest districts in Kentucky, and he said, we have classes that have 50 kids in it at some times. So how would you personalize in that type of situation? We spent a lot of time talking about that, but it's like that same thing. Max, you do a great job. You can own a group of 50, 60 and make it feel like, hey, this is our place. Like you said, that group camaraderie and everything else like that. But we still want to kind of hit each person and meet them where they're at.
Right. And so I actually think, and Michael, I'd like to hear what you think about this, it comes down to whoever that teacher, whoever that trainer is. And really what it's about is we need to make sure that whoever are leading these groups, these people are armed with the tools to quickly kind of break down a group, right? And so for us in the training world, it's progressions, right? So it's, for instance, we never start things off with a barbell, right? We always use a PVC pipe. It's why whenever we bring somebody into the gym, the first thing we have them do is air squat, right? So it's like, for me, all I want to do is see like everybody at that base level. And once you're able to look at that group, then you can kind of see like where people are going to fit in. And then as far as building relationships with people, it's way easier, right? If everybody starts at the same level, and cool, you may have an ex-college athlete, they may be rising a little bit here. Maybe you have somebody that's never worked out before. It's way easier if everybody starts at the same field, and then some people can kind of move a little bit up, some people move here, and they're like, hey, you know what, actually we're going to work in this area today, as opposed to some things that I've seen in the gym world where it's everybody grab a barbell, and now you have one athlete who's never grabbed a barbell before, they are now struggling through this, and now you're kind of taking away from their experience, being like, well, why don't we put that away? Right. And even in that moment, it makes it really tough then to have that person return, because now they're feeling even more self-conscious. And we know how hard it is to even walk into a gym in the first place.
In the first place, yeah. Totally.
So, Michael, in your experiences, and it doesn't have to be in fitness, but when you're going, to your different school visits, or you're doing your research or anything else like that, what do you see in terms of some of those like best efforts? Is it happening at like the teacher level, at an administrator level? Does it have to kind of be a blended group? Who's like diagnosing those different types of issues or situations in classrooms and saying, hey, something should be different, or we should think about changing?
Well, I will say this up front. I've never seen a good school that doesn't have a great leader. You need leadership at the front to establish a culture, to establish a tone for this is the expectations, this is how we operate, this is what we believe kids are capable of. Leadership is everything. Now, once you get in the individual classrooms or learning spaces or whatever you have in your school, there the educators become the front lines of this, right? And it's what Max said. You need to establish a baseline for each individual. You need to get to know them personally, and you need to be able to diagnose. And so I think assessment in education has gotten a dirty name because everyone thinks of the end of year tests that you don't get results for like 4 months later or something like that. Right. But assessment is actually really important because it's what you do up front to say, let me learn about you and where you are as someone in the fitness world. How do you move? What's your experience with these different movements? Have you had a barbell before? Are you going to go into a rig and kill yourself with kipping pull-ups because you don't know what you're doing and dislocate your shoulder, right? Like all of those things to get that baseline assessment's actually critical, and then you can drive an individualized plan off of that. And from my perspective, the educators that realize technology is a tool to help them do that more efficiently are the ones that are getting ahead. When they're sort of just like letting the technology drive them as opposed to them driving the technology, that's when they get behind.
Sure. And I think we see it, in our world, that there's certain people that want to feel that like, hey, technology is going to come in and replace me.
Yeah.
But then there's the other side of things that's saying, I'm not meeting my own standards and expectations as how I want to coach and teach, and I can bring technology in so that, the little things, the testing, the tracking that we try to, not get bogged down with, I can now focus. I can go teach. I can go do other things. It's definitely a big
the sarcastic way of saying it is anyone who feels like they could actually be replaced by technology, maybe they should. So I don't see it.
No, so Michael, I agree with that. I think that, especially in the fitness world, we're seeing it more so than ever. Especially, I believe I'm in line with Platform and what they're doing, and coaches, trainers, educators will never be replaced because technology is not able to build the relationship. Right? Yeah. To build the community. But what you just said is so perfect. It aids in their ability to assess and to assess quicker. And Doug's talking about this 50-person class, right? Mm-hmm. Now, in a 50-person class, and let's say you have one coach, and this coach is trying to break down hang power clean, something like that. And to now get across that to 50 people could take forever. But now let's say we have a couple iPads queued up. Mm-hmm. And those iPads are queued up in a couple different areas in the gym, and they're breaking down the hang power clean. And the students are coming around, they're looking at the movement, and as they're looking at the movement, you have your coach talking about the points of performance. This is what I want to see. Watching this video, the butt's tracking back, the elbows are ripping through, everything's happening. Then it's like you're getting it on so many different fronts, and exactly what you're talking about, these different learning styles, people are able to learn the way that they learn best, and that's what the technology aids in. So I think that's a really great point.
Sure. It frees up teacher time to do what teachers can do uniquely, which is all the things that Max just described. And frankly, I think over the last 30 years of education, we've sucked a lot of that humanity out of the teaching job. Mm-hmm. In many ways, I hope this restores it because I can work much more in small groups and one-on-one with you as an individual with the pointers that you need so that you can make progress against your goals.
Sure, absolutely. So when you look at that, because we're talking physical education, we're talking athletics, what are some of those best use cases that you've seen? What have you, because I think physical education is often sort of lower on the totem pole than the people probably listening and us here at this table would like. What has maybe gotten a head start? Maybe not physical education with technology, iPads, et cetera, that you've seen as like hey, this is working really well in math or science or whatever.
I see, outside of physical education. Yeah. So math is the area where you see this the most because people can say, it's super quantifiable. I understand the knowledge and skills. I understand really straightforward when I assess it, whether you understand it or not. Mm-hmm. And then I can use it to do different progressions. It's actually, hearing you talk about the baseline, when Khan Academy, I assume most people know Khan Academy who are listening, free videos for learning math and science and other topics. But what's really interesting is their assessment engine underneath it that people don't know about. And when they're used in schools, initially, I think they've gone beyond this a little bit, but initially they had everyone who got in Khan Academy start from kindergarten mathematics. Didn't matter whether you were 5th grade, 7th grade, whatever. You all went down to basic things. And the reason was this, that when you were progressing, and say you're in the 5th grade classroom, I got to know a kid there in Los Altos, California, that was using this in a blended learning classroom. And this kid had just concluded, I'll never get math. He was in the slowest group, whatever else. And then when they used Khan Academy and they switched to a very different design, they realized that it was just a couple concepts in 2nd and 3rd grade math that he had missed. And as a result of that, these gaps had developed. And so then now he's expected to do 5th grade math. He doesn't understand the underlying basics. Right. Well, once he filled that in, he just started soaring. And by the end of the year, he's 3rd from the top in his math class.
That's phenomenal.
And it's just, it starts with that foundation. Where are the gaps and bridging it? So we've seen it a ton in math. I'll give you one other example, just because you talk about 50 to 1 and it sounds like a lot. I was in Malawi a few weeks ago. Max knows this, but everyone listening and watching doesn't. So we're doing a very cool thing right now, saying in Malawi where there's not enough qualified teachers, literally classroom ratios of 200 students to one teacher.
Wow.
You go in, they're sitting on dirt floors. I mean, it's powerful. Like
Right.
it's very humbling. And we're asking the question: can we give iPads to help people learn basic literacy and mathematics skills just to start the trajectory?
Right.
And it looks like it can. And the teachers, you talk to them and they're like, oh my goodness, now I don't have to drill over and over again this like one sound on a letter, because the computer can do that drilling way better than I can. And now I can spend my time going around and making sure I'm working with each individual, as opposed to trying to somehow lecture to a group of 200 and individualize.
Yeah.
It's impossible.
No, you're right.
And it's pretty amazing, I think, what these things free up.
And so then I guess what I bet you've gotten pushback on those is like, well, shouldn't we get more teachers then, or shouldn't we? But you kind of
for
have
sure.
to, you have to meet the gap, right? Like there's definitely that, well, why not just get more teachers and then you don't need to insert technology? But I think it could still, or would you say it can still kind of build together?
I mean, look, here's the reality. Like, if we all had a tutor in our lives for every single thing we ever did, it'd be amazing.
Yeah.
I would love a tutor who sits alongside of me and looks at every single lift I do, and when I'm running the dog in
Tells
the
you how to
morning, tells
cook.
me what I'm doing
Yeah.
wrong, like with my form and cook,
Yeah.
like everything. That would be a wonderful world in which to live. That's not our reality,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't think it's going to become a reality anytime soon. So why not use the power of technology to create that force multiplier, so
Right.
it feels like I have a tutor aided by a real human being.
Right.
and like, we're not replacing humans. Let's say that over
Right.
and over again.
Right.
So I can get that personalization and that tutor-like feel in any endeavor that I'm doing. That's
Sure.
the power that we now have that we've never had before. And so, I assume humans will get brought into the teaching field in Malawi over time to do different roles and so forth as they develop as a country. They're just not there right now. Like,
Yeah.
we have a shortage of, I can't remember how many millions of teachers globally. 250 million students don't have access to school, period. That's just the world in which we live. I don't really want to wait 2 generations to try to serve those students. I think we
Right.
can do something sooner.
Sure, absolutely. I think that is a lot that we just kind of broke down. We're going to take a quick break. Max, you made mention to some iPads in the weight room and everything else like that. We do have a couple of partnerships that I'm going to cut away to, we'll talk about, and then we'll jump back in for the second part of the show.
Awesome.
Right?
Hey everybody, we're taking a quick break just to plug one of our partners, and that is Mob Armor. Mob Armor right here is a proud sponsor. We're working with technology in weight rooms. We want to keep this technology safe. So with Mob Armor, you can slap one of these bad boys on any type of device and it sticks right up. It's an awesome tool. We love it. You can also get them for phones, the smaller version. So go to mobarmor.com. The discount code is PLT4M. You get 15% off anything that you purchase at Mob Armor. So go to mobarmor.com, get 15% off any of these grips, any of these magnets. It's a great deal. We also have a discount for Dynamax med balls. Go to Dynamax, get yourself some med balls, and get 30% off using the promo code PLATFORM. That's PLT4M. You can get them color coded like we did. These are pretty sweet. They're super durable, and it's the type of ball that our performance team suggests. So go out and get yourself some of these. All right, we are jumping back in. Again, we have Max Isaac with us.
Hello.
Michael Horn. Seems like people are tuning in. We appreciate you listening to this live episode of Chalk Talk. If you haven't listened to some of our podcasts that we put out, go find them. You can find them on Apple. You can find them on Spotify, wherever you listen to. They're also on our blog, plt4m.com. So we've already come out with more than 10 of them. We're going to keep coming out with them every week. We're going to repurpose this into a podcast that people can go listen to if they weren't able to catch the live taping. So there's going to be plenty on that front, so stay tuned for that. Let's jump back in. And I think when we were taking a quick break, Michael, you mentioned you want to talk about something I think is really important. I think it's going to resonate, especially with our audience and the people that are, fighting the fight and wanting physical education to be taken seriously as a subject, which clearly, all of us in our different platform t-shirts
Yeah.
believe in, but it doesn't get met with that same vein from maybe a math teacher or science teacher all the time. So what do you think in terms of having those conversations with those other groups and bringing physical education to the forefront? How would you navigate those conversations, if you will?
So I'll say it on 2 different fronts. if you step back a little bit and look at the history of American education over the last couple decades in particular, it's been a drive towards saying, do students actually learn in schools? And what's achievement? And we measure that primarily on just math and reading. We don't measure other things. And so a lot of schools, as a result, have narrowed the curriculum. We've cut out PE, where we say we need double math. We've cut out even social studies and science in some cases. And so we've got to really, just double down on reading and so forth. And I think in many ways, it's kind of like the 1800s in medicine, where people started to be able to measure blood pressure. And they said, whoa, your blood pressure is really high. This is bad. We'll leech you. Because if we leech you, your blood will drain and your blood pressure will go down.
Right.
Absolutely true, and not really good for the patient.
Right, yeah.
And I think that's sort of been our reaction to this testing phenomenon over the last many years, which is that the best way to boost reading scores isn't actually to drill on reading. It's to have a really good, wholesome, holistic education that touches all bounds. And I think the research is incredibly clear personally that when students, and anyone actually, has worked out, you are a much more ready to learn. You do better, you concentrate better, your focus is higher, everything is better in learning. And so I think, there's been a lot of research that if you do a workout in the morning and then go right into learning, your attentiveness and ability to learn is significantly higher than if you just come in straight out of breakfast into learning.
Yeah,
Right.
I think our audience loves a book called Spark.
Spark,
Yeah,
yep.
by Dr. John Rady.
John Rady.
People, and he's actually from Cambridge. People love that book.
Yep.
And it speaks to that, and it goes into that. Just, a little exercise goes a long way. And Max, I would go work out with you every morning, and the days that I didn't, I was slugging along by the time
We
2
all
or 3
experience
gets
this in
there.
our work, right? I try to time my workouts at Tilt to pick me up for the
Yes,
midday.
no, I know. I see that.
That's why
It's
I'm at the
great.
12 noon. And then, so that's one. It's like, I actually think if we had physical education, we would learn more and we would do better on these tests. Like, I think that would happen.
Yeah.
The second thing is that in and of itself, school should be a place where we're preparing the citizens of the country to be good human beings and live great lives.
Yes.
And we have an obesity epidemic across this country right now. We have chronic disease everywhere. And I think a big part of that is we're not learning and developing basic habits of healthy human beings in school. We're getting reinforced terrible messages constantly with what we eat in the cafeteria, with what the sleep schedules are, with the schedule of school, and with, I think, an unclear purpose around what physical education has historically meant.
Right.
So I think it's really important.
No, so obviously we're all in the same boat, and I agree with what you're saying wholeheartedly, which is we need to prepare people, or prepare children, prepare students for life. And it's my belief that what we are working towards is kind of like we always talk about, like that distant horizon of fitness, right? We're just working towards fitness. And what that means is that it's essential for us to move every single day. And now, where we are here, which we're in Framingham, there is a number of programs called BOX, which are Building on Kids Success. And this is a program that actually started in Natick with a couple of parents. And what it is exactly what you're saying. It's that kids come to school a half an hour to 45 minutes early, and they move. And this program, they've seen great success. There's also a breakfast component with it. It's something that, for all of us, it's kind of second nature. But what we're finding, Michael, what you're saying with all these cuts and people, that we're prioritizing different things, is that students are missing out on this piece. And so what happens is, what you see is, like, if we start at a young age and we're not prioritizing health and wellness and kids are not moving, it then comes over to middle school, high school, college, and before we know it, we have a number of people who are living this incredibly sedentary lifestyle in the workforce, right? And I see this type of stuff every single day in our affiliates, is that we have people that come to see us, and it's now gotten to a point, right? And we talk about chronic disease, and it comes to this point where, hey, now I'm dealing with type 2 diabetes, right? Now, I've been drinking 7 to 8 Coca-Colas a day, and hey, now I need to kind of get myself back. But the fact of the matter is if we start, and this is coming from me because I taught kindergarten, and my priority when I taught kindergarten was the first thing we did in the morning was we went outside. Rain, sleet, snow, whatever we're doing, we go outside for 15 minutes, and then it's into the classroom. So if we start at a young age and we just show kids that moving is part of life, this is fun, this is stuff that we do, then it carries over. We see more success in and outside the classroom. And like you said, we're then preparing people for life. right? So I think that, again, I agree with, obviously, what Michael
Course of agreement here.
Yeah, of course. And then the other side of it, though, and this is where I'll play devil's advocate, is that, we want people to move. We want people to unplug. We use an app. We use technology. We hear a lot of teachers, especially, that say, maybe PE, maybe, that hour of the day is where kids get to unplug.
Yeah.
So in your experience, Michael, do you feel like, it's let's fight technology, let's embrace technology, or let's just know, like you've mentioned at the beginning of the show, let's meet it as a tool. We can use it when we need to use it. We can grab some videos, we can get some resources, and then we're going to end up moving more than if we had to, come to a standstill. Do you see a lot of that type of stuff when you're working in it? It's just like, hey, let's just unplug and get moving.
Yeah, I mean, I see it in my own household. I have, two almost 5-year-old daughters, and we send our kids to a school where for a long time they bar screen time. You're not supposed to do it at home and so forth. So I totally get it. And it's something that's much more real to me, I would say, right now. By the same token, I think, technology has a lot to offer. And so it's irresponsible of us not to be helping students learn how to use it in a responsible manner to enhance their lives. Rather than to go out, frankly, and have to deprive them and then have them OD on it the other way and then go into all the bad habits Max was just talking about.
Yeah, I think, and that's like, so technology, we talk about nutrition the same way, right? So it's, when I first started really getting into health and wellness, I said, I'm never going to eat processed food again, and so like I went one way, and it's like, okay, that probably is not realistic, right? And the same thing you're talking about nutrition. For technology, it's like, yes, we need to use it responsibly. Right? No, we don't need people plugged in all the time, but yes, there's some real advantages. And it's, again, when we talk to our members about nutrition, it's the same way. We say, hey, you know what? We should limit processed foods. We should really try and eat mostly fruits and vegetables. But understanding that, like, you need to be able to experience everything. And once you experience that, you understand, like, okay, maybe like I should not be eating processed food all the time. Maybe I should not be plugged into the iPad all the time, but there is some good stuff for me there.
Yeah. And I think that's where we just have to meet towards the middle. We got to kind of like come together, find the right people, and say, instead of just saying it's social media, that's the only thing that technology is good for, or bust, there's no in between, or there's no added elements to it, is just kind of accepting defeat.
Yeah, I think that's right. One of the biggest shocks I had when I got into this world in 2007, 8, whatever it was that one of my entry points in was online education and virtual education, where students aren't able to go to a school for some reason and are learning online. And one of the biggest shocks I had was that one of the most popular, if not the most popular online class is physical education.
Really?
And it blew my mind because I was like, how do you do PE online by yourself? Like, I literally couldn't get my head around it. And as I think through the CrossFit lens and through other lenses started to dig in a little bit more, what I realized was that these were students that like hated the traditional PE experience, where it was like about how many goals could you make or something like that.
Roll the ball out is the common.
Exactly, right. And this was instead about developing healthy human beings. And it wasn't about being on a screen your whole time while you were on online PE taking tests or something.
Right.
It was about setting goals, reporting them in through the online platform, and then having a coach come in
getting
feedback and talk to you about it and so forth. And now with wearables, I assume that field is even much further along than it was 10 years ago. That's the thing. Like, I think sometimes when we say technology, we get this image in our mind that is incredibly unhealthy, and it may not be the reality.
Yeah.
By the same token, we ought to teach kids how to unplug, how to be in nature, how not to be tethered to a phone, and so forth.
Right. Absolutely. Well, I think that's an awesome place to stop. Max, thank you for joining us.
Doug, thanks for having me.
Stopping by. Michael, always a pleasure.
Anytime.
Good luck. Michael's got a new book coming out.
Check it out. Choosing College.
Choosing College as you're sending kids off to college, which is the next step for us, really. It'll be a good read, so probably something to keep an eye on for most of the people listening. To everybody who tuned in, we appreciate it. Facebook community of all of our platform, it seems like this would be a great conversation. We want to hear your thoughts, so feel free to leave a comment, ask any questions. If any questions come up for Michael or Max, I will certainly pass them their way. But we appreciate it. Thanks again for having us. And remember,
Thanks, guys.
At Platform, it's always in the pursuit of better.